when it comes to interviewing, there is a process that goes with the idea of live the moment. There's the pre-moment, the moment, and the post-moment. Okay? In the pre-moment, there's things that you need to do. Some of these things will be obvious, but some not so much. So let's use an example of a client, and using that as kind of a case study, I think will help you understand what you need to do. What do you do in the pre-moment? So I want you to picture in your mind, what you're really trying to do is build kind of a dossier on somebody, on each individual, looking on their LinkedIn for any information you can that you have in common, first of all, right? So did you go to the same university? Do you both help out at the Boys and Girls Club, right? Anything professionally on there that you're like, oh, yeah, we have that in common. We're part of the same association, okay? So professional things that you could kind of build rapport on. So that's what has to happen in the pre-moment in order to help set you up for success in the moment. Now, you're going into the interview. You have this information in your head. Let's say, for example, you love watches and you found out that they love watches. So you knew going into the interview, the client loves watches, this guy loves watches. So when he goes in, if you're in the room and you look down and go, oh, that's a sweet watch, and you actually know a little bit about it, is that a German? He wouldn't think that's creepy, because he wouldn't think that you went, because it was real-time observation. So information that you've gathered, depending on how it's, when it's said and how it's said, can make it feel totally authentic, which is exactly what has to happen. So let me give you another example. Found some information off one of their social media posts. Know that they went on this great hike somewhere. They seem to really like hiking. You use a certain analogy or an example, a metaphor. In real time, you pull from that information and change what you say to a metaphor or an example that's about hiking. It will just seem like a really amazing coincidence that you happen to choose that as the example that you used. So that's a way to personalize information from your dossier that you got in the pre-moment to use in the moment to build rapport. Real-time observation, sweet watch, being able to use in an analogy. You've focused on them in the meeting instead of always thinking about what we've role played. You need to prepare and get as ready as you can. But at the end of the day, you have to throw that out the window, because if you're always thinking about that and you're thinking about you and what your responses are going to be, you can't live the moment. Okay? You can't.
Okay there, bud. We're going to take this nice and slow. Here we go. Oh, here we go. Position 3. No, 4. Go time. Come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. Yes, it worked. Sorry. That's my fault. Yeah, I'm on it. Position 4. 3. Yeah! Go, baby! Yes! Oh, this is amazing! The wind in my cheat sheet! Stop! No! Oh, gosh! Oh, God! Oh, no! All right, okay, you gotta angle yourself. Okay, no. Come back down towards me. Come back down. Now!
focus on them and try to give feedback and comments and value. The post moment is one of the most powerful elements of this as well, because if you were living the moment, you're writing down a lot of notes, and there's things that are going to be talked about in that interview that you're going to write down that can feed what you can do in the post moment. Now, most people do what's called the thank you letter, right? Not here. We do the thoughtful letter. So what does that mean? What it means is you're going to blow them away in something that you're going to mention, a link you're going to send them, a gift that you might send that's tied to something that you knew from the dossier or from something they said actually in the meeting. The post-moment follow-up, the message, what you write up, hey, I really liked what you said about this, and you make a comment about that, a link to an article that you read that really fits perfectly. This one client had, the guy loved hiking, and so he told him all about this hike he went on and sent him some pictures and a link to all the information about this one mountain that he had hiked that guy had never actually heard of before. The other guy, he sent a couple of pictures of the watches that he owned because they both loved watches, and they've been carrying on a conversation about those things. So there's so much that can be gleaned if you're living the moment in the interview that can feed into the dossier of thoughts that will allow you to demonstrate that you're a special person in your response in the follow-up. That's how living the moment by preparing as effectively as you can in the pre-moment feeds into killing it in the moment, feeds into showing what makes you special in the post-moment.